My name is Jason Harris. I'm going to talk about skyrocketing game dev costs. Recently on LinkedIn, I saw a friend post an image and they had asked ChatGPT what it knew about them. So I decided as my introduction to do the same thing. So I asked ChatGPT, what do you know about me? And this is the image it came up with. So it knows that I'm speaking on game dev skyrocketing costs at a lot of events. I used to be a consultant, so hence the people in suits at the bottom. And I used to work as a professional magician as well. So it got that bit. So I don't know where in the depths of the internet it pulled that information. What it missed is I spent 13 years at Electronic Arts, contributing to a lot of different mobile games. I headed up corporate strategy there. And I started gaming back when my parents gifted me what I thought was the most powerful gaming device out, a Spectrum 128K. With that, we could take a cassette tape and put it in, and in 45 minutes, we got an error. And then we had to go back and load it again for another 45 minutes to play Dizzy and marvel at the graphics of Outrun. I can remember when Outrun was released, the physics were just like, wow, this is incredible. And then the rest of the time, I'm based in California and spend with my family exploring the great outdoors. Now I'm at a company called Devoted. That's a co-dev company. We have a freelance platform for people to find freelance artists, and we work with a lot of the big developers on co-dev and porting projects. So let's talk about the state of the industry. A lot of you have probably seen this graphic before comparing the size of the games industry to TV and film. I wanted to add a couple of others in there. Social media and physical toys, because a lot of now it's working. Is this working? There we go. So a lot of these companies now are also looking at game development industry. And you can see why, because $188 billion industry. But that's not what it used to be, because back in the COVID times, we were approaching 200 billion. And in my time at EA, I thought by 2022 we would reach 200 billion. But the industry has contracted over the last few years as doors have opened and people have gone back out to participate in other activities. We've seen them spend less on games, and we still haven't got back to those COVID levels. Not only are they spending less in games, they're playing fewer games than ever before and spending less average hours playing those games. So this is causing a lot of problems in the industry. People are spending less money, people are spending less time, people are playing fewer games than ever before. And this is at a time when game dev costs have just absolutely skyrocketed. Here's an example of Spider-Man. The very first Spider-Man cost $100 million to develop. When it got to Spider-Man 2, $315 million, more than triple the original Spider-Man in 5 years. And just 5 hours of cinematics in Spider-Man 2 cost $40 million. That's 40% of the budget of Spider-Man 1 just for 5.5 hours of cinematics. And this is something that you see across the industry. Here's some examples from Call of Duty for some data that was recently announced. In 2009, Call of Duty cost $50 million to develop, going up to $700 million in 2020. And who knows what Modern Warfare 3 cost to develop. And it takes an army to build games now. These are all of the people involved in delivering Call of Duty. So you go back to the beginning, it was 400 people, 600 people. The last Call of Duty, over 9,000 people involved in getting that game out of the door. That's across all departments, not just development. And not only that, but 40 external partners and 15 internal studios. That's a massive undertaking. And this is a story we see across the industry. I looked at Far Cry, and you can see a number of people involved just skyrocketing as well. I looked at the Final Fantasy franchise, exactly the same story over and over again with these franchises. And as a result, what does this lead to? Less spend, fewer hours played, costs going through the roof, rationalization of portfolios. And this is what we're seeing more and more in the news every day. Big developers cutting games in development, cutting games that have only been out for a few weeks, and really looking at their portfolios and looking at what's actually generating revenue. And as a result, we've seen record number of layoffs in the industry, with over 15,000 people impacted in 2024. And a lot of those people have formed amazing indie studios. It's incredible to see the innovation in the pictures from a lot of these indie studios. I've been talking to a GDC and a DICE, but they're all looking for funding. And the biggest issue is VC funding has been drying up, and it's at the lowest level since Q1 2020. So tons of amazing innovation, but really hard to get funded at the moment. And meanwhile, going back to that image I showed in the beginning, there are a lot of other industries looking at gaming, because Gen Z cited gaming as their #1 form of entertainment. So because of that, and because of the size of the games industry, we're seeing retail companies like Gucci, Vita Coco, Coconut Water, Fidelity, an insurance company, look at gaming to reach these younger audiences, everywhere from building cosmetics in games all the way over to building full games. And you can see why. They not only attract younger audiences, but also can generate additional revenue. A Gucci handbag in Roblox sold for over $4,000 just for a digital handbag. I spoke to the people at Vita Coco early on, and they're like, I don't know about this games. I don't think we're going to be able to reach anybody. It's a waste of money. They got 11 million people playing the Vita Coco game in Roblox. And Fidelity was seeing over 6 million people visiting their game on a monthly basis to basically learn about finances through this fun pancake game. Nike, Devoted Studios, recently helped Nike in the launch of their new Air Max. I say trainers, I'm going to say sneakers because I don't know where people are from. But we created that experience because that was the best way to reach these younger audiences. And we can see some companies going big. Disney investing in Epic, $1.5 billion, because they've seen that just visiting a park ever so often, you don't get that regular interaction. So now they're looking at how they take that online. Lego is looking at building out different islands. Walmart has been continually growing their experiences in Roblox. So now they're experimenting with, when you buy a digital version of a good, you can get the physical item sent to you. So really tying those digital doubles in. And IKEA even built a showroom and are hiring people to walk through the showroom and interact with customers. So lots of these big brands are turning to gaming to say, okay, this is how we reach people today. This is how we reach them on a minute-by-minute basis. And this is why, when you look at Hasbro, the CEO said, we're going all in and becoming a digital play company. And when they reported their last revenues, they saw 15% growth in gaming, but a 20% decline in the traditional area of the business. Then you look at the New York Times. Now, New York Times games are more popular than the news part of the site, with 10 million daily players and 11.2 million spent in in-app purchases in one quarter. So you can see why these other companies are turning to gaming. So going back to what's leading to skyrocketing game costs. Well, people, of course, you need more people to build. But I've been speaking with probably spoken to 60, 70 different developers over the course of the year to ask them what's driving up costs in your studio. Complexity is one of them, and complexity covers many different things. More expensive to reach players, more platforms at launch. I've been hearing people say between 9 and 12 platforms at launch. A lot of indie studios at the moment is what's needed to reach the audience. Then market pressures, we're seeing more competition, we're seeing a crowded market, longer dev times, more market research needed, and then more player feedback needed, which is constant now, and people continuing to need to tweak the games. Talent, you need more niche talent than ever before, and talent is more expensive. Then exec pressure. They're always pushing for more content and more quality. And I talked about the platforms in terms of complexity, but another one that a lot of people don't think about is these modalities of engagement with players that a lot of studios have to think about today. So a lot of the most successful games have elements of create, they have elements of watch, they have elements of socializing. And this is often what's needed, flavors of these to really be successful. You can't just focus on play like before. And been talking with a lot of really creative indies, thinking about this watch component and how you can get people from the watch experience to dive into a game and play whenever they want and break down those barriers so you can go between the two. And all of these things, they're leading to more and more delays. We're seeing every single year more and more studios delaying games. And the number one reason, polish. People want to keep on polishing games and they keep delaying, pushing out. And what to do when you delay a game? Drives up the costs even more because you're having to pay for people to build new things and keep them on longer. Another one I just wanted to touch on is a lot of people said that games are bigger than ever before. They continue to grow. So I looked into this. Some of the games, like Assassin's Creed, we can see there's more and more main content that's added each game. But a lot of the others, the main story is pretty much about the same size. So as you look at Final Fantasy, there's not been that much change in terms of the main story length. And Call of Duty has remained with around 7 or 8 hours. So it's not always the case that games are getting bigger and bigger. So how are companies responding? I'm hearing from a lot of companies, whether it's big AAA publishers or smaller companies, that they're really kind of just keeping a core team now. They're saying what they can do with fewer people. When you look at the games of the year from DICE, 3 of those games, Astrobot, Game of the Year, only 65 people on the dev team. Balatro, 1 person, and even the incredible Black Myth Wukong and the visual fidelity in that game, they only went between 13 and 140 people. So we're seeing more and more, a lot of companies just shrinking their teams and keeping this core team. And then often augmenting it with external developers, with freelancers, so just dipping in to those different talent pools when needed and then letting them go. So they don't have to keep them on the books for long periods of time. And shameless plug here, we've launched a freelance platform called Devoted Fusion, where you can find a lot of these freelance artists. So if you need to dip in and find freelance artists, you can go in there, find them, work with them. It's all self-service and kind of access all of the different disciplines you need. That's my end of my shameless plug. And back to regular programming at the end. So another way companies are driving down dev costs, AI. We hear AI constantly mentioned in this industry. I think a great example is Electronic Arts. When they launched College Football 25, they used AI to create 11,000 different players in the game and 150 stadiums. And they said that they wouldn't have been able to do this without AI because the cost would have been way too high. Then we see Netflix at the early stages of experimenting with AI to build full games. So lots of different experiments here on how it can drive down costs. So what does the future hold? Well, the predictions are that next year we'll go above 200 billion. So let's hope that the industry starts to grow again. And really the question is, what's that expansion moment in the industry? So when we look back at TikTok, when that was launched, a lot of social media companies said, oh no, everybody's going to go to TikTok and they're going to take all the market share. But that wasn't the case. It was really an expansion opportunity, and it caused expansion within social media. And hours spent in social media have continued to rise. These other companies didn't lose market share. So the question for the games industry is, what is that expansion moment? Is it AI? Is it these other companies I mentioned coming in and figuring out new ways and engaging people on the retail side, or other innovations? Is it the indies that are all going out there and innovating and bringing back new ideas? So that's the end. I think I kept it within 20 minutes. So 2 QR codes here. Over here is the Fusion platform if you want to check it out. It's free. Over there, I've published a lot of the data as well, so you can get the data for free. But if you have any other questions, the only question from me is how I managed to do this entire presentation with... Thank you very much.